Hey everyone, it's Jared here. For those of you who are new to the channel, which doesn't happen very often, but if you are, I am Midnight Bandit, the Midnight Bandit, and I make beats, and I make music, and I do lots of stuff. I write stories, I perform them, kind of like an audio adventure, audiobook, but also with music. And I also have, as some of you have found out more recently, or maybe you knew the whole time because I've been pretty consistent about informing you that I have mental health challenges. Now, what I learned from a particularly stressful event was something, and is something, that is creating a level of resilience, steadfast courage, and just insight that continues to build as time goes on. I'm finding that my ability to let go of things and the ability to invite space in my mind so that I'm not, manipulated by the voices and always kind of hectic noise that's going on behind the scenes in my mind. A lot of people, I would imagine, around where I live have no clue of knowing what, just the conversation that's constantly repeating in my mind. And it, after a long time, things that are repetitive, like, they get real annoying after a while. So what I do is I almost try to fight it. I almost try to win at this never-ending table tennis match, but that is fruitless. I do it to no avail. But now, because I think finally I've reconciled with my rejection-sensitive dysphoria from my ADHD, that now essentially it's freeing knowing that I don't have to have any kind of input regarding anything that goes through my head if it's toxic, which a lot of the times it is. So, like, in my mind, it's like I think it would be like having an abusive person constantly talking about people, maybe they're obsessed, on a loop, repeating the same things constantly, and just trying to provoke me, in a manner that is very, like, consistently vile and cruel. Just anything to get a reaction. Anything. Say anything. And I realized that after having that scare, where I imagined that the neighborhood around me had this sense of, like, they wanted to take me out or something. And I don't mean for, I don't mean for like a luncheon or coffee. So that happens in my life. It's something that I have grown, I wouldn't say comfortable, but aware of. Like, I think in life, the best thing you can do is possibly encapsulate this and just repeat it to yourself, not like my voices, but repeat it to yourself in moments where you feel you're most receptive to it. And that thing is, you're not trying to live an easy life. You're not trying to make things more convenient, more comfortable, easier, anything like that. That's not, if you do that to yourself, more and more you'll realize that you're shooting yourself in the foot, essentially. Because when challenges come into your life eventually, and they always do for every single person, it'll catch you off guard. Because the more safe and soft and unchallenging these things are, the more likely it's gonna pull the rug from out underneath you. And that's pertaining to myself. So what do you have to do? You have to become a person who, with everything that happens to you, accept it, move on, and like learn that you are resilient and you are much stronger by facing your emotions about it, by facing everything, not trying to hide it in the background, not trying to hide it away from any kind of other people or whatever. I mean, I think I've heard a lot in my mind. I don't know if I've necessarily heard it from anyone that I respect, but I've heard a lot of it where it's like, I'm too honest for my own good. I'm too honest. You know what? I may be that way, but not in any way, shape, or form am I going to stop and say to myself, I'm going to be less legitimate to suit someone else's sense of comfort. And that goes back to the other thing, you know, because if people end up not liking me in reality, I don't feel like it would be any kind of, I wouldn't have any authority, first of all, but then again, I don't actually feel like I care enough about controlling people in any way that I'd want to convince people otherwise, you know, let my actions speak. A lot of the time I'm in here, this is my studio, this is my place where I make a lot of music. It is not physically intensive, it is not overly complicated. I mean, it is kind of, you know, I do a lot to try to make this stuff as high quality and as interesting as possible. But from an outside perspective, I can see how people think that I'm just twiddling my thumbs and sitting on my hands. But this stuff helps give me a reprieve from the constant noise in my head, a constant yammering. And I understand, if you can relate with this, if I don't know, you probably, no one's going to see this from this building, but like, if you hear my voice right now and you're aggravated by it, or you feel like I'm bothering you, that's what's going on in my head all the time, only way worse. And it's always this vindictive voice that never lets anything go. It's like the opposite of me. I could let go so unbelievably many things that it would boggle someone's mind. This person in particular, that is an embodiment of whatever the opposite of me is. It's something that, it's an entity, call it what you want, whether it's a pathological, spiritual, or whatever suits your fancy, you know, fill your boots. It's an entity that has zero capacity of letting things slide, zero capacity of letting things go and just be and accepting things as they are. Not a single thing happens in this person's life that doesn't offend them. It doesn't make them feel like persecuted against, and especially if it's from another person. Like if it's from an entity outside of themselves, whether it could be a seagull, it could be a squirrel, it could be a crow. You know, they don't allow things to just be as they are. They always have to. And like, I understand there's certain people who like, they have to like improve something, right? If you see, there's overachieving workaholics that like to like create something and improve systems and improve all of that, which sometimes I find like in life that doesn't really go too far, because there's hierarchical systems of the next person I'm going to talk about. that do not allow any kind of dissent, or in their minds persecution, or dissonant, dissent from their perceived extreme position of authority and power, which is just like, it's just someone who needs to control something else because they have no control over themselves, and that makes them incredible, so phobic of it that they completely detach from any experience of actually going into it in any capacity to any depth. So that's what they are. It's like, that is what I'm facing, and it's a constant struggle up until that point, up until Monday, the Monday of all Monday, the Mondays, manic Mondays. I wasn't manic, but I was messed up. That was a very eye-opening experience. So in that, what I learned was, even if people are constantly hounding me, most of the time, the types of people that I'm dealing with who just absolutely have it out for me and hate me with every fiber of their being don't have the capacity to really do anything more than that. And if they do, more than likely there's some kind of a system or some kind of thing that I can fall back on that would protect me and make, however vile, however absolutely true and honest they are, and how much they're saving the world from my absolute terror and evil. I'm making this apparent, right? Because everyone that knows me online, sorry, I didn't mean to point, but everyone that knows me online who's had tons of conversations with me knows I am not like the worst person ever, but some people do. And that's cool. But this voice echoes them, because I'm not, like, I have to be careful about the way I speak about my childhood, because I think sometimes I've been a bit more, I've been kind of unfortunately persuaded by the constant hum of these things in my head to conflate their position with people in my family, because it's hard not to. It's like, if this stuff is going on all the time in my head and outside of my head, because the voice is, right, hallucinations, it kind of steers your wee-woo. That's from a movie. It kind of steers your perspective sometimes, and especially when I'm feeling like, when I'm feeling like a bit more stressed out, or tired, or hungry, or lonely, or whatever, they tend to have more of an effect on me. So that's sometimes I have reacted against that in the past. Now I've identified exactly the exact type of people and person that this voice is in every capacity. So many times I had to identify. It's like making a Tolkien map, or maybe even just like a cartographer, charting territory of meaning, charting territory of identification of the fundamental basics of what these people think, how they think, why they're trying to hide themselves from view at all times. And I don't know, maybe it's because people don't like what they do. I'm not one to say. But some people are absolutely obsessed with how other people perceive them. They won't let you know that, because there's not a single thing that they really think that I believe they have the capacity to let you know until you've like wronged them, and then they'll let you know, they'll let you have it for sure. But essentially, that it's just a shroud of forever evolving double helix, kind of looping time and space, I don't know, undulating thing. It's forever. It's a rabbit hole that goes forever. And I'm not part of it anymore. I can actually truly say that I've divorced from it, and I needed that. I needed to have a moment where everything was so extremely potently real in my mind that I was in danger, that I essentially had that switch in my head where I worked on myself and decided that I'm not going to let people decide how I go through this world. I'm not going to allow people to tell me that, you know, to silence my voice, to silence my art, to silence the things that I love. And I don't think anyone should, because there's too many of those people who, you know, they're like, you know, if they had it, they'd probably only eat plain spaghetti with butter on it every meal. Like, they're not into, you know, no pepper, that's way too spicy. And if, you know, it's just like, and that's an exaggeration, but please, please, if you hear this stuff, if you're around people like this who don't allow you to have space in any capacity, we're talking like abusive boyfriends, abusive husbands, any kind of abusiveness. And we're not going to just genderize these people, but like most of the time, controlling bosses, controlling friends, energy vampires, all these people, don't let them, it should be a red flag. If they want to always squash your things that you love, I mean, after a certain period, if they're jealous of anything you do, even if it's like, oh, I got a sandwich today and it was really good and it had bacon on it, and I love bacon, I love eating bacon because it's smoked pig. You know, it doesn't matter. They'll get mad at it, and yeah, that's your cue to leave. Anyways, I'm going on about this for way too long, but I want everyone to know who there's like, last time I checked, which was like a few days ago, there was like 95 people who came to the stream off and on. So that's awesome. I'm glad I have a huge support from my community. That's a lot of people just in an impromptu thing. So anyhow, I'm doing good. I'm doing well, and actually more than that, I've created a space where I am just. The breakthrough is evident in its fullest capacity, and if it means that I have to go through hardship again just to get to a better place than this, I'm welcoming it 100%. So anyway, stay frosty, keep it real, all that stuff.